YouTube, once again, it is Gino Bonino. Welcome to my channel. I appreciate you guys stopping in. We are going to do a continuation of our tips and tricks series, which we call 101 Commandments for Comic Book Collecting. Can also be called Top Secrets, Pro Tips, whatever have you. Number 2, we're going to do kind of, like I mentioned before, none of these follow any specific rule. Number 2 isn't more important, say, than number 5. But number 2, the reason I'm doing it is because it came up today. Today is New Comic Book Day for a lot of you. You probably went to the comic book shop trying to get these guys here, and they were sold out, and you were bummed out and wondered why it happened to you and all that kind of stuff. Went online and saw the crazy prices. Which leads me to the second commandment, or the second rule, which I would say is very important to any comic book person. If you have a comic book store in your town, which is to facilitate a relationship with your comic book store owner. This person should become a good friend of yours. He should be somebody that you rely on, and somebody, again, that you build a relationship with, including the employees that work there as well. Now, I do hear a lot of people saying, I've got a shop, but the owner is kind of a pain to deal with. I get that. I'm not saying across the board you should bend over backwards or do anything crazy in order to make that relationship happen, but certainly you should do your part to be a good customer. And what I mean by that is somebody that's friendly, somebody that's nice to them, respectful, etc. Don't just go in there when they can do something for you. Try to do something back for them. Certainly get to know their name. Get to know what kind of stuff they like to read, discuss comic book related things with them, all that. Like anything else, you have bad owners, good owners, but they're in a tough business. If you look at the statistics, a lot of comic book shops go out of business. They're basically trying to gauge their inventory based on customers and things, and that doesn't always hold up. They also have the big companies on their back as far as trying to buy their products. They also have a lot of different things that they can buy other than comics, statues, t-shirts, etc., which leads, if you've ever been into some of these comic book stores, they have a ton of inventory, not as many customers, and that's disaster. Have disaster written all over it. So, what am I talking about? The reason to facilitate a relationship with your comic book store is quite simple. Number 1, comic books don't come out on New Comic Book Day. They've been written a long time ago. They've been printed a long time ago. The fact of the matter is they're legally obligated to sell them on New Comic Book Day, meaning they're not supposed to do it before then. They're sitting in the back room. The reason for this is often the trucking companies, UPS, etc., will get their books to a store early just to make sure there's not a problem with shipping, a breakdown, etc. And they want the merchandise in the store so it can be released on New Comic Book Day. And they're not the only thing that does this. Movies are this way, music, etc. Often that stuff is sitting, if you've ever been to Black Friday, you'll notice that often that stuff is sitting in the middle of a store with a bunch of cellophane wrapped around it. They can't legally sell it until Friday, but that stuff is already there. So, I mean, if you were somebody that knew somebody, you could probably get your hands on it prior. So what I'm trying to say is this. Often those comic books are in the comic book shop the day before. They usually get in Monday or Tuesday. That being the case, if you have a relationship with your comic book store owner and he trusts you and you trust him, he'll let you come in and get first pull. What that means is you're not going through the stuff that's been dug on the shelves. You're able to go through and maybe pick the first or second top book, get the ones that are truly near mint copies. Also means that you know you're going to get one. For instance, if you have that relationship, you can go and pull yourself 1 or 2 Batmans. Now, in today's case, doesn't mean you can go and take a stack. That would be bad business for any comic book shop, would be to let somebody come in and grab 10 or 15 copies and put them away. I mean, it doesn't work like that, but certainly you can get your book, especially if it's on your pull list. Another thing is, you'll know kind of what books are out there, what came in, what didn't, so you can sort of stay closer to your budget. You know, again, hard sometimes when all the books that came out this week are mixed in with all the other books to kind of see what do I need, what don't I need, etc. So it's easier to stay with a budget if you're able to go in back. Now, that's a two-edged sword, which means if you're not careful, sometimes you can buy more than you actually came to buy. So you do have to keep an eye on that. Another thing is, often retailers will have things that are retailer exclusive. They'll have books that come only out to comic book stores. Even though you may get previews or whatever, you can't order it. Being just, an average person, you have to go through a store. The person who owns the store can order the things for you and get it ready, and tell you when it comes in, etc. So that's nice. Also, a comic book shop can help you with grading. You may be an excellent grader. You may know how to do it, but most of us aren't. And a lot of times there will be that book that's kind of right in the middle and you're not quite sure, is this a 9.2 or an 8.5? Should I have it graded or not? When I run into a situation like that, I'll bring it into my comic book store and I'll say, can you help me grade this? Or can you help me point out the flaw that makes this an 8.5 versus a 9.2? And he's a professional. He's done this many, many years. He'll definitely help me with that. Not a problem. Also, he'll help you figure out what to collect. He knows what kind of stuff you like to read. If you like to read independents by a certain writer, he may know a series that writer did, 2 or 3 years before and be able to point you in that direction, things like that. So once again, very important to keep that relationship with a comic book store, to facilitate it, keep him happy. Sometimes I'll bring him a soda, bring him some lunch, things of that nature. Just, again, good little, good just things, being a good customer. Another thing my comic book store does, and this is very important, they're buying collections all the time. Usually people are bringing in their books to a comic book store. They'll buy them. If he knows I'm looking for a specific book, say I'm looking for a Spider-Man 300, just for an example, he'll call me up and he'll say, before that Spider-Man 300 hits the floor, he'll say, hey, I know you're looking for a book. I have it, but it's a little lower grade. You want to come and take a look at it? And I'll do that. And again, because often some of those hot books, especially the key issues, back issues, etc., once they hit the floor, if it's a fairly busy comic book store, they'll get sold in no time flat. So having that kind of first, heads up or first kind of hands on will definitely help you to be able to, get your first. It just helps. It's just a big advantage. Also, again, there's no reason why not to have that relationship. If a guy is into comic books, he's got a similar interest to you. You're a comic book reader, comic book collector. He sells them for a living. Often, most likely, a person that's a comic book shop owner started out as a collector. He knows kind of what works and what doesn't. And they're interesting. I mean, they've been doing this for a long time. They're not just flash in the pan. So, once again, that is my second suggestion or second tip for anybody that wants to get in collecting. Very important one. If you have a comic book shop in your town, make a relationship with the owner and with the employees. If you don't have one, you can even, a lot of times the online stores that look bigger than they really are, usually they're just owned by 1 or 2 people. Having that relationship with them. I know a lot of times I'll buy books on eBay and the person will send a card. If you like what you see, look online to my other store and mention this for 20% off. Take advantage of that. I mean, that's something about you as being somebody that have bought something from them once before. You kind of get an idea of what their business practices are. You know how they ship books. You know how they wrap books. If you're happy with them, and usually they do that. That's usually a habit of theirs. It's not just something they did this one time. So once again, it's just a very simple thing and a very obvious thing, but unfortunately a lot of people practice that. I know even myself, when I get something online, a lot of the time the business card goes in the trash. And I really should, what I've started to do is actually keep those and make like a little list of everybody that I bought from. And if I need something, I'll often look to them first before I, just look anywhere else. And if their price is somewhat similar to what I can get and I'm happy with their business practices, I'll definitely take advantage of them. So that's it. Once again, guys, thanks for stopping in. Thanks for watching this video. If you like it, it makes sense to you, please leave a like. And I will talk to you later. It's Gino Bonino. Bye for now. Peace.